How has your life changed since we last met?
Speak about changing everything.
So you've been, for people who don't know, pushing jungle keepers forward into uncharted territories, saving more and more and more and more rainforests. There's a lot I could ask you about that. There's a lot of stories to be told there. It's a fight. It's a battle. It's a battle to protect this beautiful area of rainforest, of nature. But since we last met, you've continued to make a lot of progress. So what's the story of Jungle Keepers, leading up to the moment we met and after, and everything you're doing right now?
18 years ago, when I first came to the jungle, I was a kid from New York who always dreamed since I was 6 years old, maybe even younger, of going to a place where animals were everywhere and there's big trees and skyscrapers of life. And so being dyslexic and not fitting in school and reading about Jane Goodall and having Lord of the Rings be one of the things I grew up on, I just chose to come to the Amazon. And the first person I met was this local indigenous conservationist named Juan Julio Duran, who was trying to protect this remote river, the Las Piedras River, which in history, apparently Fawcett referenced either the Las Piedras, but he called it Tawamanu and said, don't go there. You'll surely die from tribes. And so there's very few references to this river in history. It's stayed very wild because it's been a place that the law hasn't made it, the government hasn't really extended to, we're sort of past the police limit. And so JJ was out here ages ago trying to protect this river before it was too late. And when I met him, I was just a barely out of high school kid with a dream of just seeing the rainforest, let alone seeing a giant anaconda or having any sort of meaningful experience or contribution to the narrative. And somehow, over all the years that we began working together and sparked a friendship and began exploring and going on expeditions and bringing people to the rainforest and asking them for help and manifesting the hell out of this insane dream that we had. I mean, we didn't even have a boat. We would take logs down the river. We would have to cut a tree down every time we wanted to return to civilization. We'd have to cut down a balsa tree and float down the river.
Float down the river on it, yeah.
It's madness. It's madness. It's pure madness. And I don't know what made us keep going, but along the way, people showed up who cared and who wanted to help. And if it was a movie, it wouldn't even necessarily be a good movie because you'd go, oh, please. You're just telling me that you just kept doing the thing and just magically people showed up. But yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly the way it went. We kept doing the thing that we loved. We said, it doesn't matter if we don't have funding or a boat or gasoline or friends or anything. We just kept going. And along the way, we found someone who could help us start a ranger program. And then we found Dax da Silva, who helped us fund the beginning of Jungle Keepers. And then people like Mosin and Stefan, who were there making sure that this thing actually took flight off the ground. And then right around the time that we were wondering what was going to happen and if we're all going to have to quit and get real jobs and if we could actually save the rainforest from the destruction that was coming, Lex Fridman sends me a DM and honestly changed the entire narrative. Because up until then, we'd been playing in the minor leagues, trying real hard. And the listeners of your show, in the moments after you published your episode with our conversation, began showing up in droves and supporting Jungle Keepers, putting in 5, 10, 100, 1,000. We started getting these donations. And the incredible team that I work with, we all went into hyperdrive. Everybody started going nuts. We all started spending 16-hour days working to try and deal with the tidal wave that Lex sent towards us, just because so many people knew that we were doing this, that was an indigenous-led fight to protect this incredibly ancient virgin rainforest before it was cut. And people resonated with that. And so we got this huge swell of support. And this year we've protected thousands and thousands of more acres of rainforest because of that swell of support.
So current 50,000 acres, what's the goal? What's the approach to saving this rainforest?
Since we printed this, it's gone up to 66,000 acres. It's And as you know, in each of those little acres are millions and millions of animal heartbeats and societies of animals. And the goal here is that we're between Manu National Park, Alto Purus National Park, the Tambopata Reserve. We're in a region that's known as the biodiversity capital of Peru, one of the most biodiverse parts of the Western Amazon. And we're fighting along the edge of the Trans-Amazon Highway. And so it's just a small group of local people and some international experts who have come together and used these incredibly outside of the box strategies to sort of crowdfund conservation. To go, look, we know that this incredible life is here. We have the scientific evidence. We have the national park system. If we can protect this before they cut it down, we could do something of global significance. All these jaguars, all these monkeys, all these undescribed medicines, the uncontacted tribes that we share this forest with, could all be protected. And people have stepped up and begun to make that happen. And it's people from all over the world, and it's incredible.
But what's the approach? So trying to, with donations, to buy out more and more of the land and then protect it.
So the approach is that currently the government favors extractors. So if you're a gold miner or an illegal logger, or you just want to cut down and burn a bunch of rainforests and set up a cacao farm, the government's fine with that. Doesn't matter. You're not really breaking the law if you destroy nature.
So as long as you're producing something from the land, they don't see it as a loss that the nature was destroyed permanently.
Yeah, it's just wilderness. It's sort of just beyond the scope of, or the local people that technically own the land out here, the local indigenous people. For instance, we fought this year to help the community of Puerto Nuevo, who's been fighting for 20 years to have government-recognized land. These are indigenous people in the Amazon fighting to protect their own land. And you know what it was that was holding them back? They didn't understand how the system of legal documents worked to certify that titled land. They didn't really have the funding to go from their very, very remote community into the offices. And so Jungle Keepers helped them with that. And so really all we're doing is helping local people protect the forest that is their world. That's it.
If people donate, how will that help?
If people donate to Jungle Keepers, what you're doing is you're helping someone like JJ, who's an indigenous naturalist, who has the vision, who has seen forest be destroyed. He's trying to protect it before it's too late. You're saving mahogany trees, ironwood trees, kapok trees, skyscrapers of life, just monkeys, birds, reptiles, amphibians, birds, mammals, this entire avatar on Earth world of rainforest that produces a fifth of the oxygen we breathe and the water we drink. This incredible thing. As far as I know, it's the most direct way to protect that. And so the fact that we've, we have large funders who give us, $100,000 to protect this huge swath of land, and that goes through things like this and through Instagram. It goes directly to the local conservationists who work with the loggers to protect that land before it's cut. But one of the most impactful things that has happened this year in the wake of our last conversation was that I got an email from a mother, and she said, I'm a single mom and I work a few jobs and I can't afford to give you a ton of money, but me and my kids look at your Instagram often after dinner, and they really want to protect the heartbeats. They really want to protect the animals in the rainforest. And so we give $5 a month to Jungle Keepers. And it was, to me, that was so impactful because I used to be that little kid worried about the animals. And I saw how a few million raindrops can create a flood.
Yeah. I ask that people donate to Jungle Keepers. You guys are legit. That money is going to go a long way. junglekeepers.org. If you somehow were able to raise very large, so the raindrops would make a waterfall, a very large amount of money. I don't know what that number is. Maybe $10 million, $20 million, $30 million. What are the different milestones along the way that could really help you on the journey of saving the rainforest?
If let's just say some company, organization, or if enough people donated it, let's just say we got that 30 million. That money would go directly into stopping logging roads, into creating a corridor, a biological corridor that connects the uncontacted indigenous reserves with other tribal lands, with Manu National Park, with the Tambopata, which establishes essentially the largest protected area in the Amazon rainforest. And what makes this groundbreaking is that we're not doing this in the traditional way. We're doing this, take it to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's been so exciting is that, when he started this, when JJ started this 30 years ago, he had no idea. His father wanted him to be a logger. He didn't have shoes until he was 13 years old. He grew up bathing in the river. He had no idea that a bunch of crazy foreigner scientists were going to show up and some guy in a James Bond suit was going to come down here with microphones and and that all of a sudden the world would know that he was on this quest to protect this incredible ecosystem and all those little aliens.
Well, that's all an important thing to remember, that the people that are cutting down the forest, the loggers, are also human beings. Their families, they're basically trying to survive, and they're desperate, and they're doing the thing that will bring them money. And so they're just human beings. At the core of it, if they have other options, they will probably choose to give their life to saving the community, to first and foremost providing for their family. And after that, saving the community, helping the community flourish. And I think probably a lot of them love the rainforest. They grew up in the rainforest.
Yeah. I mean, look at Pico.
Yeah.
Pico used to be a logger, full-time logger, long-time logger. Now he loves conservation. He goes, yo soy muy conservacionista. He's like,
yeah. It's all about just providing people options. There's some dark stuff on the gold mine stuff you've talked about. You showed me parts of the rainforest where the gold mines are, and they're just kind of erasing the rainforest.
Yeah.
Sort of at the edges, that's when the mining happens. And it's this ugly process of they're just destroying the jungle just for the surface layer of the sand or whatever that they process to collect just little bits of gold. And there's also very dark things that happen along the way as the communities around the gold mines are created. So the entirety of the moral system that emerges from that has things like prostitution, where 1/3 of the women that are drawn into that sex traffic and prostitution are minors under 17 years old, 13 to 17-year-old. There's just a lot of really, really dark stuff.
I think that we have a rare chance to do something against that darkness. I think that this is an example of local people who have taken action, done good work, been good to the people that have visited, harnessed a certain amount of international momentum. And now we're on the cusp of doing something historic. And so for the children in the communities along this river, it won't be being a prostitute in a gold mine. It'll be becoming a trained ranger. Like last month, our ranger coordinator and one of our female rangers went to Africa for a ranger conference. And it's like this is someone from a little tiny village with thatched huts upriver. She went to Africa to talk about being a professional conservation ranger. And it's like, that's changing lives. And her daughters, then she's married to Ignacio, the guy. She, like their kids are going to grow up seeing their parents walking around with the emblem on and go, oh, I want to. And then people like Pico and Pedro and all these guys that work here are going to go, well, we have to protect this forest. And then they start getting fascinated about the snakes. And then they start caring about the turtle eggs. And then all of a sudden they have a way of life, and nobody needs to go needs to go steal anybody's kids to be a prostitute in a gold mine. That's horrible. And so it's really it's a win-win for the animals, for the river, for the rainforest, for people. It's biocentric conservation. It's just making everything better.
Yeah, I've read in an article that said an estimated 1,200 girls between ages of 12 and 17 are forcibly drafted into child prostitution around the communities in the gold mines. At least 1/3 of the prostitutes in the camp are underage. The girls had ended up in the camp after receiving a tip that there were restaurants looking for waitresses and willing to pay top dollar. They jumped on a bus together and came down to the rainforest. What they found was not what they were expecting. The mining camp restaurants served food for only a few hours a day. The rest of the time, it was the girls themselves who were on the menu. Literally at the end of the road, and without the money to return home, the girls would soon become trapped in prostitution.
It's interesting to me that the most devastating destruction of nature, the complete erasure of the rainforest, burned to the ground, sucked through a hose, spit out into a disgusting mercury puddle, like the complete annihilation of life on Earth, goes hand in hand with the complete annihilation of a young life. It's like it's all based around the same thing. It's the light versus the dark. It's the destruction and the chaos versus a move towards order and hope. And it is incredibly dark. And this region is heavy with it.
Well, I'm glad you're fighting for the light. Is there like a milestone in the near future that you're working towards, like financially in terms of donations?
There is. In the next year and a half, as you saw in your time here, there's roads working around the Jungle Keepers concessions. All the work that the local people are doing to protect this land is trying to be dismantled by international corporations that are subcontracting logging companies here. And really what we need is $30 million in the next 2 years to protect the whole thing. You've seen the ancient mahogany trees. You've seen the families of monkeys. You've seen the caiman in the river. All of this is standing in the pathway of destruction. That road, they're going to come down that road, and men with chainsaws are going to dismantle a forest that has been growing since the beginning. This is so magical. Do you see the snake over there?
Yeah.
Do you?
There's a
Okay.
snake.
I'm just going to, don't move. I don't want you to move. I'm going to this is one of the most beautiful snakes in the Amazon rainforest. This is the blunt-headed tree snake. One of my favorite snakes. I've been hoping that you would get to see this snake. I have been praying.
Oh boy.
Okay. Let's just go right back into this. Okay. Look at this little beauty creation. Let's keep you away from the fire. Look at this little blunt-headed tree snake.
Wow.
Such an incredible.
So tell me about the snake.
Harmless little snake. If you put your hand out, he'll probably just crawl onto your hand. Just be real careful with the fire. So look, I'm just going to put him like this. We're going to. Yeah, that's just snake safety. So he's a tree snake. Yep, nice and slow, nice and slow, nice and slow. So you nice and slow, just really slow. Just be the tree. Be the tree that he climbs on. And this is like, again, this is a snake that's so thin and so small. There you go. Nice and slow. Just be the tree. Let him crawl around. So he's going to try and do all this stuff. Let me see if I can just calm him down for a sec. Let me just see. He's a very active little snake. So see, like the snake the other night. Okay, just calm. Look at this. I can see the light through his body. To me, this is an alien.
Mm-hmm.
This is this strange little life form. His eyes are 2/3 of his head. I'm not joking. You look at their skull.
He's so tiny.
He's so tiny.
For people listening, there's a snake in Paul's hands right now, and it's very, it's long, of course, but very skinny.
Very
light.
And also for everyone listening, the odds of that as we're sitting here doing this podcast, that a snake would just be crawling by in the jungle might sound like something that would happen, but the density of snakes in the Amazon rainforest makes this a very unique experience.
Can you tell me a little bit about the coloration scheme?
Yeah,
It's a little bit brown.
Yeah, just to describe this as we were talking here, it's just a sort of banded white and brown snake with this tiny little head about the size of my pinky nail. 2/3 of this snake's head is made up of its gigantic eyes. It's got a small mouth, and it's about a third as thick as a pencil. It's basically a moving shoestring. It's incredibly, incredibly thin. The only thing I am thinking, Lexo, is that if we have Dan come and just do some shots of...
Yeah, that's true.
Dan!
So what are we looking at here?
The snake that was crawling behind us in the jungle that we were talking about jungle keepers and what we could do. And this snake just showed up at that moment. And this is a very active little snake who's out for a hunt tonight and wants to find something to eat. So this is a blunt-headed tree snake, totally harmless literally a moving shoestring.
Mm-hmm.
Super beautiful little animal. When you talk about aliens, to me, this is an alien. Like, what are you thinking? What are you doing right now? What do you think about the fact that we are being handled by these giant humans?
And as you were saying, it reaches up to the leaves.
Yeah, the snake just naturally knows to go. Look, you just put him anywhere near leaves, and he's like, I got this. He just wants to go right up into that tree. I just want you to try holding him, and real gentle, just be the tree. Yeah. And just kind of do the same thing you learned last night. Just nice and gentle. Yep. And see, he's holding on to my finger right now. He's just going up. There you go. Perfect. Nice and easy. He's a little erratic. He's a little goofy.
Maybe he's camera shy. Maybe a fan of the podcast. And gigantic eyes relative to his body size.
Huge.
Oh,
jeez.
Hello, moth. Traffic in the jungle.
And then for everyone listening, as we're handling the snake that we found that was crawling by us, like literally by our shoulders as we're talking, a bat flies through, no joke, 8 inches from Lex's ear, like just zips past his head as he's holding a snake while we're sitting here in the jungle. We're just in it now. Now he's going to try and back up.
And how do you?
Yeah, why don't you let's encourage him to come back this way.
He's weaved this way.
He's okay. He's just trying to back up. Yeah, there. Release.
Oh.
Release. Okay. This is what I'm gonna do. We're gonna say, thank you, Mr. Snake.
Thank you, Mr. Snake.
Thank you, Mr. Snake. Go back up into the tree. Here we go. There you go. There you go. There you go. And then we can resume normal podcasting now. Because
we really are in the jungle.
We really are in the jungle. That's one of my favorite snakes. That's one of my favorite little aliens on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
And it's going on some long journey. It's going
into the canopy.
Carry the rest of the night. So that little snake is one of the millions of life forms, heartbeats that you're trying to protect.
Exactly. To me, after almost 20 years down here, the people here have become my friends. The caiman on the river, the monkeys. When I fall asleep at night, I think about all the different heartbeats, all the different little creatures here that when they bulldoze this forest, when they chop down these trees, that they vanish, that we take away their world. And in that very evolutionary historical sense of remembering the primordial soup, it's like this little creature is surviving out here somehow, and we have the chance to save it. And even if you don't care about the little creature on the pale blue dot, each of these little creatures contributes to this massive orchestral whole that creates climactic stability on this planet. And the Amazon is one of the most important parts of that. And each of these little guys is playing a role in there.